Okay, let's talk about a crisis that's unfolding in Australia, and it's a costly one. We're seeing record high prison populations. Suicide rates are still tragically high. Now, you might think these are all separate issues, but they're really symptoms of a system under enormous pressure. But what if? What if they're all connected? What if they all point back to one single hidden cause we've just been, well, overlooking? All right, so let's follow the money because that always tells a story, right? The source material projects that by 2025, the annual cost just for corrective services in Australia is going to hit a staggering $7 billion. Just think about that for a second. $7 billion. That's money we're spending to react to problems, not to get ahead of them. And when you dig a little deeper, the numbers get even more telling. Men make up a whopping 92% of the prison population. Now, a number like that, that's not just a statistic, It's a massive flashing red light. It tells you something is breaking down way, way before a crime is ever committed. So the real question is, what are we missing? And this is where we get to a really provocative idea. What if these aren't a bunch of separate problems at all? What if they're all just symptoms of one single hidden gap, a crack in the very foundation of our government? The source material actually gives this gap a name, and it's a pretty powerful one, the accountability void. So let's break down what that really means. Okay, so what is this accountability void? The first thing to get is that it's not about blaming any one person or any single service. It's not about pointing fingers. It's about a failure in the design of the whole system. Think about it. We have all these separate departments: health, education, justice. But there's no single person or authority whose job it is to connect the dots, to track what happens to people as they move between these silos. And the consequence of that? Well, it's captured perfectly by this metaphor. Our system is like a series of safety nets, but they're not connected. So when someone slips through a crack in, say, the healthcare system or the education system, there's nothing to catch them. They just fall right through all of the other gaps until they hit the hard floor of the justice system. And of course, they often end up harming others on the way down. All right, to make this a little more concrete, the analysis actually points to 5 specific missing pieces in how our government is set up. You can think of them as the joins, the connective tissue that's supposed to hold everything together, but it's just not there. So what are these missing joins? Well, first up, there's no accountable ownership. I mean, literally no one person whose actual job it is to care about the final outcome for a group. Second, a lack of cross-system joins, which are just formal links to make sure departments actually talk to each other. Third, we're missing early warning indicators, using data to spot trouble before it spirals into a crisis. Fourth is aggregate tracking, so seeing the big picture of what's happening to a whole group, not just one-off incidents. And finally, a unified ledger, basically a common set of books so we can all agree on how to measure what's actually working and what's not. Without this stuff, the system is always just playing catch-up. Okay, so if that's the diagnosis, what's the prescription? What's the proposed fix? Well, it's not some huge, sweeping, radical idea. It's actually a really precise, tightly scoped mandate. Think of it like a specific tool designed to fill those exact gaps we just talked about. And what's really interesting is that the proposal is just as clear about what this new role wouldn't do as what it would. So it would focus on things like tracking outcomes and flagging those early warning signs we mentioned. But, and this is key, it would have absolutely no say in things like judicial decisions or police operations. It wouldn't touch women's policy or get involved in individual cases. The bottom line here is that it's a mandate for data and coordination, not for ideology or interference. This whole conversation isn't happening in a vacuum. It's not just an Australian issue. In fact, tackling these kinds of structural gaps is part of a bigger global trend. Let's take a quick look at what other countries are doing. Yeah, this idea has been building for more than a decade now. If you look back, Ireland is actually the first, launching a national men's health policy way back in 2008. Brazil was right behind them in 2009. Australia even had a go in 2010. And it's not slowing down. Just a couple of years ago, Norway appointed a special commission to look into these challenges. And just this year, England released its first ever men's health strategy. So you can see the pattern, right? More and more nations are realizing they need a formal, structured way to pay attention to this. So when you strip it all away, this whole thing really boils down to one fundamental question. And it's not about pitting one group against another. It's about how we can build a safer, stronger society for everybody. And so this is the question we want to leave you with. Does investing in the stability, health, and education of men and boys actually create a safer and stronger nation for women and girls? The source material really suggests this isn't a zero-sum game at all. The idea is that by shoring up the foundation for one part of the population, you actually make the entire structure safer and stronger for everyone. It's a really critical question, and one for all of us to think about.